Never mind Brexit. The latest division in our midst is Uber. I was shocked when I heard Transport for London had ruled against renewing their licence. Not least because closing down Uber would see 40,000 people lose their jobs, and many of them are tied into finance contracts for their cars. TfL claim they made the decision on the grounds of public safety and security implications, but they are one of the bodies responsible for private hire licences. And TfL even conducted 10 compliance inspections at Uber over the past 4 years, all of which were passed. Cancelling Uber is not the way forward. Instead, this should be a wake-up call for all parties. Regulators like TfL must accept changes happening. Yes, of course Uber needs to follow the rules and make sure it's protecting customers and workers. But if we're saying London is open for business, Sadiq, it's time to prove it.
I basically agree with you, Michelle.
Thanks, Greg.
I think what's happened here, it depends why they've done it. If they've done it to get Uber to round the table to have a proper negotiation, to have a set of proper requirements, that's fine. Which I think is what it was about. It was about giving a shock to Uber, and it's clearly done it, because if you look at Uber, they started off saying, "Oh, don't you touch us," and within about 3 days they apologised and said, we'll change. And I think that, therefore, it's probably been effective. But I think to actually stop Uber in London will be massively unpopular, particularly amongst the young, or the people who elected Sadiq Khan in the first place. So I don't think it will happen. I never thought it would happen from the moment they announced it. But I think it's probably had the effect it wanted. Now, I'll just quickly tell you, I use Uber quite a lot.
Oh, there goes your black taxi.
Yes,
you're in the rain.
I use black taxis as well. But I mean, let me. Too late. I yesterday had I went to the cricket. I had a day at the cricket. I got to the cricket. I had an Uber to get me there. It took me an hour and a half because the traffic was terrible, and I think it cost £27. Now, I've got to tell you, that guy made nothing yesterday. Yeah. Now, I got worse than that because I left my wallet. I thought I'd give him a £5 because I thought it was so unfair. And unfortunately, I left my wallet in the car, so he cleared off with it. So I then rang him up, and he came back. Oh. And I thought, you're good publicity. And so I gave him a bit more. But it was very nice of him. But I think, in truth, they are paid too little.
Yes.
And I think one of the things, just as there's always a maximum that cabbies can charge and it's all regulated, so I think you've got to start saying to Uber and Uber drivers, look, this is not enough money. Yeah. And I talk to a lot of Uber drivers, and to get a decent wage, you've got to work 7 days a week. And I think the figures should be higher.
But can I ask you this, though? If you think that Uber are paying way too much, why is so many people... Sorry, way too little. Why do you think that so many people are choosing to work for Uber as opposed to some of the other alternate cab companies?
Well, you haven't got to do the knowledge for a start.
No,
2 years worth.
I have some sympathy with black cabbies who've done 2 years of doing the knowledge, learning everything. But technology has passed that by to an extent. I mean, I know a lot of people who still rather have black cabs because they know exactly where they're going and the rest of it. But I think my experience of Uber drivers is that they're doing it for a range of different reasons. They don't all do it full time. It's often, a lot of them are students or who are doing education later in life in a supplementary income. But I think there's no way it's going to disappear. It just won't happen. If Uber's
it's disappeared in actually lots of other jurisdictions, Greg. Yes. You say it can't happen, but it has happened elsewhere. Uber has been deleted.
Sure, but if it's not Uber, it'll be Uber Mark II. And something else that will do the same thing.
This isn't a London thing, by the way. This is Uber's in 20 cities, I think it is, in the UK.
Countries. 600 different locations. When I was on a small island, as I often am, off the east coast of the United States last summer, Uber was there. It's everywhere. I think the problem I have with what happened last week was Sadiq Khan said something rather different from TfL. Sadiq Khan turned it all about customer safety. Whereas TfL talked about Greyball, about accountability, about tax and all the rest of it. Sadiq turned it into safety, and that was a real mistake because...
Should we just see then? Back. Let's see what London Mayor Sadiq Khan actually said.
You've got to play by the rules. Doesn't matter how big you are, how many customers you have, how many PR people you employ or lawyers you employ. The rules are the rules.
And the tone has changed a little bit because then, I mean, you have to remember there's 790,000 people have signed a petition to keep
it's
Uber.
rising.
In a poll done between the Times and Sky News, it's 42 places. It's virtually 50-50 as whether Uber should stay. The Mayor will realise a lot of young voters, which helped deliver in his personal mandate, are Uber users. Exactly. And just one last thing, I'm delighted to hear about your trip to the cricket ground, but did you have to go drinking with Ben Stokes afterwards? That's where it all got a bit ugly there, wasn't it?
Can I just finish my point about security, which is, took a black cab, and he was saying, we call them migrant minicabs. He was talking about Uber. Yeah. And he said, 30% of the assaults are Uber drivers. And he went on, and I accepted all that. And he had all the statistics down pat. But my 23-year-old daughter is far safer in an Uber where she knows the name, the license plate, and the location and of the driver than she is getting into an unlicensed minicab.
48 alleged sexual incidents in the back of Ubers in 1 year in a 12-month. That's almost alleged one a week.
But what was the other number?
They know
because there was there was a much broader number
of
sexual assaults.
Taxis.
No, but in terms of sexual assaults that's gone on, there's quite a high number. And actually, when you look at what was apparently Uber versus other transport, other minicabs or whatever.
The minicabs generally.
Can we see what Uber themselves had to say?
There's two things that need to happen. The first is the legal appeals process. So, our number one priority is to support the 40,000 licensed drivers that face losing their ability to earn a living, and support their families and their loved ones. So we're running through that process to make sure that we can be here for them and continue to support them. But we also want to sit down with TfL and start a dialogue so we can better understand what concerns they might have and what issues that are on their mind, and I think it's important to do that.
Yeah, I think what I'd just like to add to that, Michelle, and I completely agree with your point, I think it's two things. Is number one, we mustn't forget how many low-income people who are on benefits have been able to come off benefits because of Uber. Yeah. So in terms of what it's costing us for the state, I think Uber is actually benefiting us. And then the second bit as well is, I think the bit that I sort of have an issue with is I don't think they should be allowed to have an off-peak and peak system like black cab drivers. I think they should be like minicab drivers.
Just explain how that works.
Yeah, so if you're in rush hour, it can cost you more than if you're not in rush hour. And I think that's wrong. And I think that's one of the issues that black cabs have with Uber. It should be like minicabs, flat fare, and that's all it is.